This is water damage from these two drippers here that have been spraying for almost a year now. They create, you could see the remnants of the water, but all this water damage. It's been doing that about a year. You can see it's so much water damage that it's actually changing the pavement. Anyway, so our community looks like this. Red rock and some plants, and we had a new landscaper come. We just had some dead grass over there in the front. This grass was fine. There was a leak, you can see it right here. But that was from a broken dripper that dripped like that for almost a year, that was right next to that palm tree. But since then we have redone this for turf conversion, even though I would say 40% of it was grass, maybe even 35. So what did we do? This is all brand new. This is old, and obviously it's still filled with debris and, the pine, but obviously nothing gets cleaned, which is why everything's dying and falling apart, right? We can see lots of that, even this, which planted in the wrong place. It's not gonna actually get cleaned, but this is, they put in this color rock that doesn't match the community. They put in these plants under pine trees that just grab on to these pine needles, and of course they're never going to actually clean that. But also these two plants are in the shade 90% of the day and likely will never bloom. Let's look how they're doing after 6 months of being here. But anyway, this rock color doesn't match the building. This was here before. Also never gets sun, so even though this is about 4 years old, maybe 5, it like, it's the height of summer, and this is what this thing looks like, because this side of the building gets like maybe an hour of sun in the afternoon. So even though we had just planted almost everything here by Classic Landscapes in 2021, we had just put in and replaced a bunch of plants, but they tore everything out. The existing stuff that was perfectly healthy and the new stuff that was just to replace like plants. And this is what they put in. Again, this is only, I think this was done in like October, November of last year. So these are Texas sage. They have these little purple flowers. But you can see, again, this won't ever bloom because it's in the shade all day. This is dead. I don't even know how he thought that would bloom because it's in the shade all day. This was all bushes. All of this was fine, but they took it out. It's like he only had the option of 3 plant choices. A yucca, a Texas sage, and whatever those little things are over there in this. But he just, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plants right here. Like in a 2.5, 3 foot radius. Even when these grow, like these things will at least get 5 times bigger. But again, nothing's blooming, and nothing will ever bloom because until about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, the sun sets right about there, and sometimes it sets over there. Also, these trees are dying. I don't know if you can see this, but when he did this, I said, don't do anything crazy because the trees are gonna die. We've already removed so many trees, but look at how brown. And so much has dropped off, but everything is turning brown. So anyway, this was a small little patch of grass, and then that over there was grass. This was all pre-existing bushes, just like, I don't know, like that over there. You see those bushes? Every unit has hedges around them like that, but now in this area we have these, and to put 3 yuccas, like, I mean, look at the size of my foot. Like, that was overkill. This, we're supposed to have a hedge here, but what are these? Who knows? Why the rock was changed? Money grab? I think so. None of this irrigation looks good and proper, but can you see that, like, literally every plant is full of debris? Obviously they were just here. This looks better than it did the other day, but everything that looks like that is dying. That's even yellowing. I mean, this stuff is brand new, not even a year old. None of this was needed. Look at all of that at the base. It all just looks terrible. Here's these other little plants. Already dead. Completely dead. Already dead. Already dead. You know, I just don't understand. So, again, just as a reminder of what other areas look like. Look, we have the yellow bells. We have the bright orange one. We have oleanders. We have a lot of plant types, but nowhere. So anyway, see, this is what, hold on, let me get over here. This is what the hedges were and what we have. And this is what he decided why he needed to remove this bush over here, or any, like, there were bushes all around this and all around their hedges, just like that. So why we needed to put in all this stuff, and look, this is 1 year old. What is that even for? Filled with debris. Not able to even clean what they just put in. Filled with debris. This was just maintenance yesterday. This is Saturday morning. They were just here Friday. So this is all brand new. Way overkill in plants. Look at this great thing right under a pine tree that is so filled with, I mean, I told them, you know, we had a bid for $1,000 to just put lantanas right at this corner and a little slice of fake grass until, and then keep all the pre-existing bushes. But I mean, this is 1 year old. You can see all the lining underneath. Like, how is this supposed to last? And it's the same thing over here. Sorry, the lighting could be better, but I can come back and do this again. But like every plant, look. This is brand new landscaping. Plants, all the plants are dying. Like, more of it. Like, was this a good job? I don't think so. Did he need to rip out? See, this is what was around the whole building and was over here. This whole side was perfectly healthy. Even the grass was healthy. There was no reason, because it wasn't the grass causing the leak, as you can see. This is hours later. This leaks at like 5 a.m. So the whole area is completely flooded at 5 a.m. And that's been happening since before all this work was done. This was done because Stephen on the board knew Mark, and they decided they were going to do turf conversion somewhere, and they had to get the rebate when all we needed was just to rip out the little, and we only were going to, well, the grass was dying, so a few lantanas right in the front, because this is a main traffic way, right? Like, people drive right through here. So if you just had a pop of color at the front, and we had from Brandmark a bid for like 1,000, but of course Terry and those board members don't like to do anything unless it's right in their front yard, so that didn't get approved. But look at how much, like, crap there's everywhere. Now those will never bloom because this is the, like, right now is the most sun those are gonna get. And what should have gone in, well, one, they had bushes here that were perfectly fine, that looked just like this, that looked just like everywhere else in the community, but they ripped them out to put this. So not only was this completely unnecessary and just a money grab, but these aren't going to bloom, they aren't going to flower, or at least like maybe a couple that get sun will flower and the rest won't. But none of this needed to be done. I'm not sure if that's old or new, but obviously these trees have been here a while, so he put one little ring right around the base. That's not going to keep this plant alive when it's used to grass its whole life. So yeah, more of the underlinement coming up. Even when this job was done, there was one guy out here working. Look, more dead. Oops, get out of the sun's way, but dead, filled with debris. Like, why do we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yuccas right next to each other? Like, why? And those bushes aren't even close enough to fill in, whereas before, that was a full hedge. Like, you could not see the bottom of those windows. It was completely healthy. But in light of turf conversion, we pulled it all out. Now here, none of this needed to come out. This was all fine too. But look what we put here. More of this thing that doesn't even look like it's going to be a hedge. It looks like it's just going to grow out into the sidewalk. But again, there was no need for new rock. That was just a money grab because, again, those will never get sun. This is the most sun. This is just insane. But like, this looks nothing like the rest of our community. I don't know, maybe Mark could only get this material, especially at winter. I guess he didn't want the plants to die right away, so he just chose 3 winter plants. This is terrible planning, completely unneeded. What's going on here? That might need to be fixed. But it's just terrible because when we drive in, it just looks terrible. But to think the turf needed to be done because of water waste, and yet the turf wasn't actually wasting water. It's, clearly the lack of us having an irrigation tank. But the fact that this rock shows all pine leaves, pine needles, and that most of this is never going to grow, like, I just think they should have followed the CCNRs and just did just the dead grass, like really a small patch of fake grass and some lantanas would have done. Because even if you've got lighter color lantanas, they're here this weekend, which shocks me. That's them. They just drive around and do like 2 little minor things and then leave, right? He's got a few little palm leaves and 1 branch. But look at this area, right? And it'll never be cleaned. But again, they didn't follow the rules. They didn't get community vote. They didn't ask anyone over here if we wanted this plan. It does not follow, you're supposed to replace with the same. And one, you shouldn't be cutting out plants that are perfectly healthy, right? They didn't cut out that one. Probably because that would have been too much work. But the fact that they took out just whole rows of bushes, of shrubs on this side, that literally that shrub was fine, except there was one missing that had died. So that was replanted maybe 3 years ago. So it was just, halfway as tall as the others, but it was getting there. But we've spent so much money on resodding that grass and replanting plants for them to just come out and rip everything up that we've at least spent like $5,000 on in the last 7 years. This side had no issues. None. There's nothing wrong. None of that needed to be done. And especially for them to go all the way up to the front door as though they needed to rip out perfectly good bushes just shocks me. It's just a waste of money. So we had a plan that would have fixed that for $1,000. And all of this costs $17,000 for no reason, and it doesn't match the community aesthetics, and it's using plant types that are not like the plants we had, and things that aren't going to grow because they need sun, and half of this stuff is dead, and it's fully littered with debris and never gets clean, and because the rock is now gray, the red pine needles just stick out, and the trees appear to be dying. So that's my concern. I think a lot of rules are broken here, and I think this was about nepotism, not actually solving a problem. And the fact that only 2 board members seem to approve this, with no community involvement, no community vote, no approval for design, nothing, I think that this is a violation. And especially the landscaper. This is not a plan. This was what I had on hand, and I'm still going to charge you top dollar. And I literally had one guy out here for maybe 2.5, 3 weeks installing all this. Like, he had a few people come rip it out, but one guy put all this back in, and obviously it was done so poorly. Like, this is supposed to last us. Like, all of the turf is coming up, half the stuff is dead. Like, these plant choices were terrible, and just so much was unnecessary. They ripped out so much that was perfectly healthy. Again, this grass didn't really need to come out. If we needed to take a little grass, the only reason the street looks like that is because they just let broken irrigation go for months and months and months and months and months until somebody finally says something. It's usually me. Like, it doesn't seem like anyone else cares about the epic amount of water that's running through the streets at all hours of the morning and middle of the night. But yeah, this is unfortunate. So love for you to come out and take a look so you can see what we got for 17 grand unnecessarily. I do have photos of what all this looked like before, and I promise you're going to be shocked. But this, honestly, this has probably been running like this since before we even did that last winter, and it's the end of July, so and I'll even say November they did this, but it's probably October. But I think they thought like they were solving some water problem. No, this water is coming from neglected landscaping and the lack of an irrigation tech and the lack of them running irrigation and checking anything. They barely blow. You can see the debris everywhere. But this leak, it starts here, it obviously puddles. I mean, you can see, but it obviously puddles all the way over there to the edge. It puddles all the way down there to the edge, and then it turns the corner. So, of all the spots, this is the worst. Sorry it's not in full sun, but again, I'll try to come back and take a different video later. But to actually see Brandmark on property on the weekend, out making noise and chopping stuff at, 7 in the morning on a weekend? Like, why? Like, you saw what he had in his cart. A little palm frond, which I'm sure the palm tree guys did, and a little branch. Like, wow, he's really here solving problems. But the fact that everything is just not maintained and corroded, and every time he sends different people every single time, so they just walk around and break all the drippers. Every time someone's here, there's new drippers broken. And this poor little tree, half of it wasn't doing well. So what did they do to it? They just mutilated it, this little one. You can't even tell because there's a pine behind it, but wow, they just mutilated that. And that's what they do. They let a tree completely die. You think they did any tree? I mean, this tree was obviously diseased. Half of it was dead. I'll send a picture. But do you think they helped the disease or did any plant maintenance? No, they just came and trimmed it off. That will be dead as well. Give it 6 months. But yeah, I'm worried about the pines over here because I don't think the irrigation was done with what was needed. I think this was a quick patch, and because it was his friend on the board, they could just do whatever they wanted, right? But to change the design completely, there is not one single person in this community that thinks this was done well or likes it. And especially since the front gets all the attention and several board members think only their front yards that are private lots, and the like amenities like the pool and spa need maintenance. They don't think the rest of the community needs any maintenance because they do not go to the rest of the community and they don't care. And they're just not realizing that the bylaws and the CCNR state this stuff that, you know, we all own collectively, that is the actual common area as well. So I really do hope somebody comes out and looks at this. I hope that they also look at, you know, what employees that Mark is sending here and just how his company is structured. It seems like he's a plumbing contractor, a construction contractor, and a landscaping contractor, and maybe has a different landscaper that he's like a member of their company, so maybe he's just using that company as his labor. But for what we're charging him, he's not following the contract. It's all about what extras he can get extra money for, and this was one of it, and it's done completely horribly. It looks terrible. It's not even a year old, and it's all falling apart. So just trying to have someone come assess that, and hopefully we can get our money back, because at this point he's ripped out so much that was mature and perfectly healthy. It's going to be years and years and years before this area ever looks like the rest of the community again, even if we get the money to redo it. But what he put in is not consistent with the rest of the community, and this just looks like a whole different community, like, and nobody's happy.